And welcome back. So just to remind you of our question of the day as we prepare to get into discussion about it with the Minister of Social Development, Lindiwe Zulu, we're asking you today, the High Court has ruled that independent early childhood development centres that comply with COVID-19 safety measures can open immediately. But do you think that this should extend to government-run centres as well? And why? And this, of course, Leanne, in keeping with the questions we've been asking about a return to school. And yesterday, of course, that admission that the academic year 2020 has in fact been lost.
So that's the real thing. But of course, the topic now, talking to ECDs, and it's been interesting to see the response from a lot of people, because some people are exceptionally happy that they are open, but others, of course. But this is the one thing that we have realized through all of this. It's everybody is divided. It's a divided nation in terms of how to handle COVID-19. It doesn't matter what you do, whether you have a hard lockdown, you have the other half saying, stop it, you cannot have this hard lockdown, not good for us. If you open up, then suddenly there's a divided nation again. No, don't open up. You've got to lock down. This is getting bad. The numbers are soaring. You open up schools. No, you can't open up schools. You close them down. Don't close them down. It is a very difficult and sensitive topic. It really is. And this one is certainly no different. And I'm noticing the responses being balanced in both ways.
It's right up there, as you say, Leanne. The one thing that COVID-19 has done is that it has placed front and center our inequality as a nation. So you have schools, independent schools that may be a little more affluent, who are able to have those safety measures in place because they are well run, they are well resourced, they have the money, they have the resources. And then on the other end of that spectrum, you may have centers that are the polar opposite of that scenario that I've just sketched. What happens to them? Should they be opened as well? And if so, how do you come to their assistance to make sure that they actually do have the necessary safety precautions in place, that they actually do follow regulations? Who's going to monitor all of this?
Indeed. Well, let's actually talking about some of them. I've got one or two that have opened here on my phone. This is coming from Sam Rapau saying, good morning, ladies. I personally don't see any problem in opening this, and that of government. In fact, it should have started with government ones. We are moving forward, and thanks for that. Okay. Here's another one coming from Koshi saying, the principal of the preschool called yesterday asking if my child will be coming, and I said, no, I'm not taking my 3-year-old to the lion's den. Do they think babies will wear masks all day and social distance? People only care about the money, and that's all.
And Tabi says, whether independent or government, I don't think ECDs should open for now. And ECDs, of course, early childhood development centres. So, as you say, Leanne, it's split right down the middle in terms of how people feel about this. So keep giving us your views, and I love that you're explaining what the rationale is behind your thinking. And we, of course, will take this conversation further now with the Minister. And in case you missed it yesterday, the Gauteng High Court ruled that all private early childhood development centres that comply with safety measures against the coronavirus may reopen immediately. Judge Hans Fabricius had strong words for Ministers Lindiwe Zulu and Angie, saying that the Department of Social Development's decision not to reopen preschools under level 3 of the national lockdown was unlawful and unconstitutional. He's also ordered that the department pay all costs of the court action. Now, the High Court application against the department was brought by Trade Union Solidarity. And joining us now is the Minister of Social Development, Lindiwe Zulu. Minister, thanks for speaking to us once again. Welcome to Morning Live.
Yes, good morning, Sakina, and good morning to you all. Good morning to your viewers.
First off, Minister, your reaction as a department to yesterday's judgment, and is the Department of Social Development planning on appealing that ruling?
Yes, well, the judge did what the judge had to do. We also do what we have to do. And first and foremost, we are dealing with an environment that nobody would have thought we would be finding ourselves here. And this is it. However, we as a department that we must adhere to the court ruling. We must follow due processes. We accept that the judgment that has been made In fact, the judgment comes at a time when we were way down far in our preparations for the opening of the ECDs. We were way down far with the preparations of the directions towards that, because we have the regulation normally issued by Minister of Kokta, Minister Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, and then from there we do our directions. And we were way far with that. We actually had even decided on a particular date, which I announced here, same here at Morning Live, which is supposed to be the date of the 26th, but the 20th being a date where the practitioner that is responsible for ECDs, they go and make sure that the ECDs are ready, because we really want children to return to a safe environment as far as possible.
So just in terms of regulating this particular sector, how many early childhood development centres are there that are registered with your department, Minister Zulu?
Yes, well, we have thousands of them. We have thousands of them. We've got about 60,000 of them which are not registered, which is also a problem. And so we started with the registration. We gave them 6 months to register. That's why we had that special program called Bangasali or Bangasali. It's a program that's meant specifically to help those that have not been registered. Because this coronavirus, of course, is a deadly disease. It's a difficult environment for us. But on the other hand, there are other things that have happened that have helped us to really step up in terms of the work that we do, part of which is the issue of registration of ECDs. We are in partnership with the nation to make sure that we help those that are not registered. Many of the unregistered for us are those that are happening in our townships, in the rural areas, and we really do need to step up, because children have to be taken to safe places. Parents have to be comfortable where their children are being taken to. So we've stepped up on that program. We're happy with.
Well, seem to have lost the sound there momentarily, Minister. Didn't quite get the last part. You said you have stepped up. But what does that mean practically? And how many children are we actually talking about when you say there are about 60,000 early childhood development centres or childcare centres that are not registered? How many children do you estimate we're talking about?
I can't give you the numbers right now. It wouldn't be correct for me because I can't guess the numbers. Get the specific number.
So what will stepping up mean in practical terms? Because following yesterday's ruling, what does this mean for all those centres, especially the ones that are part of the government setup? Does that mean that they will be returning? And where does this leave others who are not ready, who cannot afford to have the safety measures in place?
Well, as a government and as a department, we are supportive of the ECDs, especially the ones that we are talking about, who are not in private hands where there is money to make sure that they are ready. As government, through the social development at provincial level and at local level, we are supportive of them. We've even set aside a budget, a specific budget of more than 90 we have to use in assisting the ECDs to open. Assisting ECDs to open is to make sure that the environment is conducive. It's a protocol, COVID protocol. They must understand, they must appreciate what needs to be done, but also there needs to be training of those. But we start with the regulations and the directives themselves, because those have to be understood by the practitioners. We've had a very long conversation and discussion with ECD practitioners. The reason why we went to the point of having the framework which we have for the opening and the directions as to what exactly needs to happen, the measures, the reopening measures, the monitoring and evaluation, which you would find in our regulations. It's simply because we are helping, we're stepping up in a way, because under normal circumstances, those are things that we would have not been doing necessarily. But because of COVID, we've had to make sure that we have to get the PPEs for them. We've got to get the environment conducive. got to work with the Department of Water and Sanitations to make sure that where there is no water, there's water in those places. What we have done so far, really, we're still looking forward to the reopening, because we had agreed that the reopening has to happen. But the only thing that we wanted to make sure was that there's got to be safety for the children, but not only for the children, even the practitioners have to be safe, because as it is said, the people who would get affected quickly are the practitioners who work at the ECDs.
Minister, I'm listening to what you are saying and reading what the judgment had said. And you say you've been in consultation with the early childhood development practitioners. Which ones? Because the applicants who brought this court case, they actually charged that you had been ignoring them and you had not consulted with them and you essentially left them in limbo.
Well, it's very unfortunate if that's how they feel about it. I can assure you that the department has been in long-term consultations. This is one you are talking about, and there's thousands of others that we have been consulting with. By the way, we must also remember that we are responsible for legislation, regulation, and now we are responsible for the directives. However, when it comes to the practical implementation of what we are doing, that most of it rests with provinces. Even with the consultation, it rests with provinces, because the provinces has got MECs for social development, because the provinces are the ones that have to wake up every morning, the officers that have to go and check whether the ECDs are ready or not. Those will be the people that are in the offices. They are even described in our directives as to exactly who must go, that the ECDs are ready. Look, Sakina, when all is said and done, you yourself were talking earlier on with Leanne about others saying you must open, others saying you must not. And us as government, we know sometimes we do it, we are damned, sometimes we don't do it, we are damned. But if there's one thing we're very sure of, we're sure of the fact that South Africans collectively, we need to do everything we can to make sure that our children walk into safe places. We have to make sure that we reduce the infections. We have to make sure that people stick to the protocols. And we will do this until such time that maybe COVID is something that's become a normal thing in our society. But what we want to make sure is to adhere to the protocols, because there's nothing as painful as seeing people dying, as waking up in the morning and being told by your SASSA CEO that so-and-so has died in a particular place. So we have to do everything we can to protect lives. We have to do everything we can to make sure, on the other hand, that the economy also begins, because we are very conscious of the fact that many of the parents who want the ECD to open, it is because they want to get back to work, they want to earn a living for themselves, and we are also very conscious of that. So we have to keep a balance, and we're doing the best that we can. And so when the judge makes a judgment, we go through the judgment. We also adhere. We have to make sure, what did the judge say? What is expected of us? First and foremost, the judgment in itself, you can see when you're reading through those 54 pages, you can see that it's a worry that we have the kind of situation that we, but the judgment does not even give a date as to when the ECDs must open. The judge himself says that they must open provided that the safety and everything that's related to protocol is adhered to. That's what the judgment also says. So it's clear that even though there's a judgment on the other hand, there's a government on the other hand with separated powers. One thing that we are sure of, we are all in this together. We've got to get it right for our people. We've got to get it right and make sure that we reduce the infections.
So, Minister, what exactly are the safety protocols that these early childhood development centres need to have in place, one? And two, how exactly will your department assist these centres and children?
Well, we've issued circulars to all the ECDs, including the forms that are attached to our directives that clearly indicate what needs to be done. They have to also do self-assessment, and they have to post that self-assessment to us. They have to monitor, and we will do spot checks as a department to verify that readiness. But also we have prepared, we're supporting subject of funding I have to say that that one, because I don't want tomorrow to be said that we said we've got this money and we're going to buy everything. We also have a difficulty in terms of finances and being able to reach everybody. The date for the reopening, we've already set the dates, and the compliance for us is what we have in the circular, which we sent to all the ECDs, especially those that are registered. And obviously the ones that are unregistered are the ones we've given 6 months to register. Even those ones, we have not excluded them in giving them the circulars and the direction as to what really needs to be done.
But the judgment is explicit in that these centres should only open if they comply with the safety regulations. So we know what that entails in terms of school-going children. When they return, they need to have masks, there must be sanitation, proper sanitation, social distancing, etc. What does it mean practically in ECD centres? What sort of protocols do they need to follow, Minister?
They have to follow protocols of ensuring that they come in batches. Number one, they have to make sure that the temperatures are taken. They have to make sure that, of course, with ECDs, that the checking of distance is one of the most difficult things. That's why we believe that the training of the practitioners is very important. And training of practitioners, obviously, is not something that's going to be short. There'll be hits and misses. We can't deny that, because this is a new environment for us altogether. But we think that in the circular where we are talking to them, we are communicating to them what. When all is said and done, you can send as many circulars as you want. You can pass directions as much as you want. When all is said and done, it will be us monitoring whether that is happening at the centers or not. And that, of course, is a mammoth task, especially because monitoring means people must then get out and go out to the ECDs to make sure that this is a risk also for those going around. But we've people that are ready to do that. We've got volunteers that are ready to do that. We've been working with volunteers through the National Development Agency, which has been helping us in the recruitment of volunteers. It's not an easy task, but we're up to it in the best way that we can.
And then there's also the feeding scheme element to all of this, Minister, but we are unfortunately out of time. We'll have to leave it there for this morning, but no doubt we'll follow up on this one as the centres start to open up. Thank you so much for your time. Minister of Social Development, Lindiwe Zulu, talking to us about the Gauteng High Court ruling that private preschools who comply with safety measures may reopen immediately. And as you heard, all the various nuances to that particular judgment that come into play and the department's role in assisting those who perhaps do not have the means to actually be compliant. That brings us up to 7 o'clock.